All right, guys, we really need to have a chat about the market and where things are going right now. We're seeing a lot of big changes, and you're going to be seeing some headlines here in the next little bit that is probably going to freak a lot of people out as the real estate market continues to shift. Now, if you're looking at this thinking, hey, I'm a seller, this might be a little bit scary. If you're a buyer, you might be thinking, hey, this is great, or maybe not, because of interest rates. We're going to talk about all of that here in this video today. We just finished up the month of July, so we have July data now available, and I'm going to be showing you a little bit about what's going on in the market, what we're seeing as far as home sales, what we're seeing with prices, what we're seeing with days on market. We're going to cover all of that information here in this video today. So let's jump into it. Okay, guys, so here, as we jump into my screen here, we're going to look at this month right here, July 2022, right? That's the month we just finished up. This number right here is the number of home sales that we had during this month. So we had 2,946. This is down substantially from June, which was at 4,069. So the thing to keep in mind about this is anybody who submitted an offer in whoever closed on a home in July, they actually submitted that offer maybe like end of May or in June in order to close here in July. So the number of sales that we had in July is down substantially. If we go back to July of last year, you're going to see that we're at 4,661. So basically what this means is if you look at this, we are almost 1,600, almost 1,700 sales actually less than we were in July of last year. June of this year was about 900 sales, let's say, give or take. Sales had come down 900 lower than they were, but in July it came down about 1,600 to 1,700 based on the numbers that we're seeing here. July of last year we're at 4,600, July of this year 2,900. So you're going to start seeing a lot of headlines. Sales drop massively. They drop, I don't know what that is, 50% or 60%, whatever the number is. It's going to say, hey, this is dropping. This is what you need to know about the market, and this is one of the concerns that is out there as far as what's going on in the market. So for the month of July, that is very atypical data. Even in July of 2020, we're at 5,879 sales, so almost double what we were here this year. If we go back to July of 2019, right, which is kind of pre-COVID, pre all this craziness, we were at 5,000 home sales in the month of July in 2019. So this is pretty surprising to see that home sales went from 5,000 just a couple of years ago to now under 3,000 in July of 2022. The other thing I want to point out here is going to be the sales prices, right? So this column right here, median OL $, that stands for median original listing price in dollars, which is at $515,000. Now this is across all home types, right? This is condos, townhomes, single family homes, entry level stuff, and your $1 million plus homes. So this is everything across across all categories and in all areas. So the median price that homes were listed at was $515,000, but homes are only selling on average for about $505,000 of their original listing price. So this means that homes are selling now for 98% of what they're listed for. If we want to find those similar numbers, back here in April and May of 2020, we were at 99%, but before that, it was pretty common to see this, right? You'd have a home listed at 330 and it would sell for 322, right? 330, 325. So you can see here 98, 98, 99, 97. It kind of fluctuated right around that range in a normal market. Things went crazy the last couple of years. That's why we've been so high, especially going back to this time where you're at 104, 105%. It's pretty crazy. And then going to the numbers that we're seeing here today, you are sitting at 98%. So we're back to that same level that we saw a couple of years ago, which is more of a normal market. So the prices have come down a little bit. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But the thing to note is what the homes are being listed for versus what they're selling for is dropping, but that is fairly normal. That's usually what we expect to see in a normal market, right? So the more substantial thing to note here is that sales are down substantially, and also that prices are down pretty substantially from where they were at all-time highs. If you look back here in May, we had a median sales price of $540,000, and we're now down to $505,000. So this is roughly I think that's roughly like 6 to 8%, somewhere in there, if I do my math correctly, that prices have come down off of those all-time highs. However, if we actually look at this, we say, okay, sales prices are at 505. That really only takes us back to the pricing that we saw in between February and March of this year. So it's not like prices have come down all that much since, the number of sales has dropped and interest rates have gone up and all this different stuff, right? So if you're a seller looking at this, you're still going to be able to get a pretty good price for your home compared to, what you would have sold it for last year or the year before, but it's not going to be at all-time highs. Those days have come and gone. I don't think we're going to see that again for at least the next year or two, climbing back up to this like 540,000. I think it's going to be at least a year or two for that, those numbers to hit again. So we're sitting at 505. And like I said, that brings us only back to like February or March data as far as sales prices, where those are at. Last thing I want to look at here, and then we're going to look at some more specific information and then talk about what this means for you. Last thing I want to note here is this final column, median cumulative days on market, CDOM, is now back up to 15, which is pretty high for the summer months. Summer of last year, we were at like 6 or 7. If we go back to 2020, we were a little bit higher here, actually at like 12 days, 17, 18, 15. So it is fairly normal. And even if we go back to, July of 2019, it was even up to 21, 25. So seeing this number here at 15 is actually not surprising. I do expect that to continue to climb. I think it will push, somewhere between 20 and 30 going into August here. We're seeing a lot of homes sit on the market. We're seeing price drops across the board. We're seeing a lot of people who are trying to sell their homes and they're just not getting a ton of traction. I've got a couple of listings and we're not getting a ton of traction despite being listed, with having an asking price right where we think we should be. So that's kind of just the reality of the market here. Now, as we, cover this kind of general data, now I want to jump into some more specific data that I think is going to be relevant for a lot of people out there to kind of give you more information on what you might be looking for in your general price range. Now, before we jump into this more specialized information regarding different price ranges and price brackets that you might be looking at, if you're thinking about making a move here, reach out to me. I love when you guys reach out to me. I've had people from all across the world reach out saying, hey, Cody, I'm moving to Utah. I need some help. How can you help me buy a new place when I get there? How can I invest in real estate? And that's something I love hearing. I love hearing those stories. So if you are thinking about that, make sure to reach out to me. My information is in the description box below and it'll be here on screen. And then also, if you already live here in town, maybe you live right here in Sandy or Draper or Murray or Lehigh, Saratoga Springs, wherever it might be. If you live here already, reach out to me, call, text, or email anytime. I love helping people buy, sell, and invest in real estate. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this information here. Okay, so this is looking at sales data between $0 and 500,000, right? So this is gonna be all homes under 500,000. If you look back here at July, you can see that we had 1,470 sales. So almost half of the sales that happened were under that $500,000 price point. And we did see prices come down a little bit, but not as substantially as we were seeing previously, right? We're here at 404 versus all-time highs back in April of 423. So it looks like prices have come down roughly 20,000 from their all-time highs, but they're still only sitting at the levels that we saw in February of this year. So you only have to go back, I think that's 5 months to find this similar pricing that we were experiencing then. Thing to note though is again that, sales have dropped pretty substantially, sitting at 1,470 compared to July of last year, which was over double that at 2,928. This is obviously because, sales were much higher back then, but also because there was a higher percentage of homes that were under that $500,000 range. So that's why the sales have dropped pretty substantially. We'll probably see the inverse, numbers on this next set of data that we're going to look at. If we go back to July of 2020, it's even more, it goes up pretty substantially, but you have to keep in mind, this is also because there was a lot of homes that were under that $500,000 mark, back in 2020 that would now be 6, 7, 800,000. So that's why you're seeing this information here. Hey, real quick guys, I want to tell you about the new newsletter that I'm going to be releasing here in the next little bit. If you want to sign up for it, go and click the link in the description box below. You'll just need your name and your email and you'll be signed up for that newsletter. Now, this is going to be a newsletter that goes out every, probably 2 to 3 weeks or so. And it's going to have some information about what's happening in Utah, what's happening with the real estate market, what's happening with interest rates, and just kind of some information about the market overall. So if you want to sign up for that newsletter and be a part of that, make sure to click that link down below and let's get back to the video. So again, going back to this, the sales that happened in July, 1,470 is about half of all sales under that $500,000 price point. And again, this is across all counties here in northern Utah. Days on market was sitting at 13. Now let's go ahead and jump into homes selling between 500,000 and $1 million. As we look into this information here that's showing home sales between 500,000 and $1 million, you can see that we had 1,297 sales. So the number of sales was actually a little bit lower than that last data set that we looked at, but you are seeing a little bit more of a substantial price drop with the numbers. And that's kind of expected, right? As you go up to these more expensive homes, negotiating $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 off the price is a lot easier at $1 million than it is at 400,000. 10% of 400,000 is 40,000. 10% of $1 million would be 100K. So there's pretty big difference there. That's why you're seeing these big changes. Median sales price was 630,000 in this price bracket, which is only down slightly from, where we were at 650 back in April. So I think that's, roughly what, like 3% 2%, give or take a little bit. But we are seeing, that homes are selling for less than what they're listed for. So the median listing price actually has continued to climb from these last couple months, but now sales prices are coming back down. So you kind of have to look at these two sets of data in comparison. Days on market is significantly higher here at 18. This August data, you kind of just have to ignore that because it's August 1st, so we don't have a ton of data. It's not very accurate, but we are seeing the days on market climb for this price point. Now, if we continue on and look at homes that are selling above $1 million, you're going to see this information here. July of 2022, we had 220 sales, which is down from where we were the last couple of months. Home prices have dropped pretty substantially at this higher price point. We are still seeing homes listed kind of at all-time highs. Interestingly enough, back here in December, January, and February, it's actually at 1.5 million for a median home basis. I think this is probably because there's a lot of homes that are in, like let's say Park City or Eden, these other really more expensive areas that are selling during the winter because that's kind of the prime selling season for those markets. So I think that's why you're seeing these higher prices kind of back here going into the fall, and then they dropped off pretty substantially here into the spring and summer. So median listing price was at 1.4 million, but the median sales price was at 1.3 million. Now there are a lot less sales here, so you do kind of have to take that with a grain of salt, right? If you look at this, it looks like, on a median basis, home sales have come down pretty substantially back here, hitting an all-time high of 1.467 for this price range. So sales are down, I think that's like 12 to 15%, if I can do some quick math, off of this high number here. So we're at 1.3 million, but it's a pretty big drop from where homes are being listed at, right? So they're listed at 1.4, but being sold for 1.3 on a general basis here. Days on market again is higher, but that's expected for those higher price points. So that kind of covers some data that we're seeing here in the market. Now, if you're a buyer in this market, you might be looking at this thinking, hey, this is actually good news. Prices are coming down, but the flip side of that is that interest rates are going up. Of course, they've been going up the last couple months, and that's what's causing the sales in the market to slow down. So that's something you have to keep an eye on. If you're a buyer in this market, yes, you might be able to save 10, 20, 30, maybe even $100,000 on a home, depending on your price point, but you may end up paying more still because of that higher interest rate. Now, the thing that's important to keep in mind is that myself, I think there's a good chance that interest rates are going to come back down in the next 1 to 2 years. And I've been talking to a lot of lenders and other people who are really smart, and they're kind of thinking the same thing. They're like, hey, inflation's out of control, so of course interest rates have to be high right now, but they are going to trend back down sometime in the relatively near future, I think is kind of what everybody's thinking. So we could be wrong. Of course, you can't count on that, but if that does happen, you can expect to see even as rates start coming down, right? Let's say that they're at 6% and they go to 5.5, or maybe even down to 5. You are going to see a lot of buyers jump into the market because now rates are a little bit lower than where they were, and prices are also a little bit lower. So people are going to see this as their opportunity to jump into the market and purchase a home now rather than continuing to wait, right? If the time is right for that individual person, they will make that decision. And I think that as interest rates come down and prices are now coming down, once you get those two things together, they're going to kind of buoy the market up and continue to provide that stabilization. If you're a seller in this market, you might be looking at this thinking, hey, maybe the time has passed. We already passed those all-time highs, which yes is true, but as the data shows here, we're only back to pricing that we saw in January, February, maybe even a little bit of March for where homes are selling at today. So if you're going into this market, you just need to have a realistic expectation that, hey, your home is probably going to sit on the market for a couple weeks. You might have to do a price drop, maybe 2, but just go into it with that expectation and you'll still be able to pull a pretty good price for your home. Now, when it comes to investing, I like to talk a lot about investing. I work with a lot of investors and I am one myself. This is going to be interesting. We haven't seen a whole lot of action in the multifamily space. Unfortunately, we don't get sales data like we have here for those multi-unit homes. And so we don't have exact numbers, but from what I'm seeing, I look at multifamily, home listings every single day. I look at every single one that comes on the market, and for the ones that are coming on the market versus what they're going under contract at and then selling at, we haven't seen a ton of changes in that price point. Now, it's a little bit surprising because at today's interest rates, it is incredibly hard to make any money at today's prices. Finding a deal in that space is going to be very, very difficult. So if you're looking at investing in this market, you either need to find a really good deal deal, or maybe you just have a bunch of money you're trying to put aside for some tax benefits, or, you know, perhaps you're taking a little bit of that gamble thinking, hey, home prices in Salt Lake, they're going to be way higher than they are today in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And I think interest rates will come back down. So even though I'm locking in today at, let's say, a 6% interest rate, I could probably get that down to maybe 5%, maybe even 4%, you know, in the next couple of years. And then I'm going to be cash flowing based on those numbers. As interest rates come down, I can refinance, get a lower payment, and also rents are going up as well. I had to just renew a couple of leases and put new tenants into a couple of rental units. And the rents on these different units, I couldn't believe how much more they rented for. One rented for $150 more than I was previously getting. Another one rented for $100 over what I was getting, and another one was $175. So $100, $150, and $175 for these 3 rental units. And that was just market rents, right? These people that were in those units before were not necessarily like way under market. It was just, hey, that was what they were at the time. I raised it a couple percentage points every single time they renewed. And then as that, you know, as they moved out and I placed a new tenant, rents were pretty substantially higher than where they were before. So $100 gain on one, $150, and then $175. So I think that will continue to happen. I think we're going to see a lot of rents increase over the next 12 months, just because there's a lot of people who want to buy but aren't going to be able to buy. And so that's, you know, kind of what you're looking at right here in this market. So with all that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this market update. If you are thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, reach out to me. Even if it's not going to be today, even if you're looking at 6 months or 12 months down the road, I'd love to hear from you. My information's here on the screen. Call, text, or email anytime. And don't forget to share this video with a friend or family member or coworker who might also be interested in learning more about the Utah real estate market. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you in the next one.